My hands were shaking when I opened her phone. One message, one file, the recording. My voice, trembling, broken, confessing things I never wanted anyone else to hear. It was sent from Jamie's account. My best friend, the girl who once told me we were sisters. Outside, laughter echoed through the dorm hall. Inside, something in me went quiet. The betrayal wasn't in the video, it was in her. My name is Scarlett Thomas. I'm 20, a communications major at the University of Washington. When I came here, I thought college would be a new beginning, a place to forget the cruel jokes and whispers of high school. But life doesn't erase what you've learned about trust. It just tests if you've learned it enough. Jamie and I met during orientation. She had that energy everyone noticed. Loud, confident, camera always in hand. Somehow, she made me feel seen. We shared food, secrets, long talks past midnight. She called me her sister. I believed her. One night, while rain tapped on the window, she asked, "You never talk about high school. Was it really that bad?" I hesitated. Then I told her about the bullying, the names, the fear that followed me everywhere. She nodded, eyes soft. "You didn't deserve any of that," she said. "You're stronger now. You should tell your story someday." I smiled. "Maybe when it stops hurting." She laughed. "It already is, Scar. Look at you." Her phone screen glowed faintly beside her. I didn't think much of it. Why would I? She was my friend. I thought my story was safe. That night, I slept easily for the first time in months. I didn't know the camera had been recording. I didn't know that by morning, my truth would no longer belong to me. The next morning, something felt wrong. Laughter followed me down the hallway, quiet at first, then louder, sharper, like a sound meant to sting. A few classmates glanced my way and quickly looked down at their phones. I tried to smile, to pretend I didn't notice, but every step felt heavier than the last. My phone buzzed. Once, then again. A message popped up. "Hey, crying girl, great performance. LOL." I froze. My breath caught somewhere between confusion and dread. I opened the link, and there it was. The crying roommate story time. 20,000 views. My face, red-eyed, trembling, voice cracking, looped over and over, turned into a meme, edited with cheerful music and captions that made my pain look like comedy. I couldn't move. The sound of my own crying filled the room like a ghost I couldn't silence. Comments scrolled across the screen. "Is she for real? Drama queen energy? Someone give her an Oscar." My chest tightened. My fingers shook as I locked my phone, but the sound was still in my head. The way I had begged, the way she must have recorded every second. Jamie was at her desk when I walked in, humming as she brushed her hair. She looked up, eyes wide, innocent. "Hey, you okay? You look pale." I could barely form words. "You posted it," I whispered. She blinked, almost offended. "What are you talking about?" "My voice. That video. It came from your account." Her laugh was soft, almost practiced. "Scar, no. I'd never do that. Someone probably stole it or something. People online are crazy." I stared at her, searching for the truth in her face, but she didn't even flinch. She just went back to scrolling her phone. The laughter from the hallway echoed in my mind long after. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the video again. Me crying, her camera watching, the world laughing. By the end of the week, It wasn't just a video anymore. It was everywhere. Clipped, remixed, turned into jokes with captions like, "When your roommate overshares," or "Crying Challenge 2.0." Every time I walked through the dorm hallway, I could hear it. My own voice echoing from someone's phone, followed by laughter. People stopped talking when I passed. Some smiled awkwardly. Others just stared. My professor's eyes softened in that quiet, pitying way that hurts worse than mockery. Even the ones who meant well still whispered, "That's the girl from TikTok." In the cafeteria, I sat alone. The chair across from me stayed empty, like a warning sign. My messages went unanswered. The air around me felt different now, too light, too quiet, too cruel. Then, one afternoon, someone sat down across from me. Leo Carter, the only person who hadn't laughed. "I saw the video," he said gently. "I just wanted to say, I don't believe what they're saying. You didn't do anything wrong." I looked up, my throat tightening. "You don't have to say that." "I mean it," he replied. "Not everyone's against you, Scarlett." His words were small, but they were the first bit of warmth I'd felt in days. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about Jamie, about her calm face, her perfect denial. Something inside me said it didn't add up. I needed to know. While she was in the shower, I unlocked her phone, the same one I had once borrowed to take selfies together. My hands trembled as I opened her files. There it was. The original recording. My name in the title. Sent from her account to a group chat I didn't recognize. For a moment, everything went still. The truth stared back at me, cruel and undeniable. She had done it. Not by accident, not as a joke. And somehow, she had still smiled at me like nothing ever happened. I saved the file quietly, my hands trembling, but my face still. I didn't cry. Not this time. I copied every message, every timestamp, every trace that proved what she'd done. Then I sat on my bed, waiting for her to return, listening to the faint hum of laughter coming from the hallway outside. When Jamie walked in, the smell of her perfume filled the room. She tossed her bag onto the chair like nothing had happened. "Hey," she said casually, scrolling through her phone. "You're still upset?" I looked up at her. My voice came out calm, too calm. "Why did you do it?" She froze for a second, then smiled like it was nothing. "Do what?" "The recording," I said. "You sent it, Jamie. I saw it on your phone." She laughed, quick and defensive. "Oh, come on. You're being dramatic. It was just a joke. Everyone thought it was funny." I stood up, my chest tight. "A joke?" "Yeah," she said, crossing her arms. "You always take things too seriously. People need a good laugh. You're trending. Isn't that what you wanted? Attention?" I took her phone from the desk and threw it onto the table between us. The sound cracked through the silence. "That wasn't a story," I said. "That was my worst memory. My voice. My pain. And you turned it into content." Jamie's expression shifted. Annoyance, then guilt, then anger. "You know what, Scarlett? Maybe if you weren't so sensitive, people wouldn't react like this. I was just trying to help you open up." "You're welcome." I shook my head. "You don't get to decide what helps me." The room pulsed with silence. She grabbed her jacket, muttering under her breath, "Unbelievable," before slamming the door. The sound echoed for a long time. I sat back on the bed, the light from her empty desk still glowing against the wall. The room felt colder than before, like her absence had taken the last bit of warmth with it. For the first time, I wasn't sure which hurt more, the betrayal, or realizing she didn't even think it was wrong. I locked the door that night and didn't open it again for days. The laughter from the hall faded eventually, but it never really disappeared. It lived in my head, replaying in fragments, overlapping with the sound of my own voice from that cursed recording. I stopped checking my phone, but it didn't matter. The silence was louder than any notification. Sometimes I'd catch my reflection in the mirror and barely recognize it. My eyes looked tired, hollow. I pressed my palms against the glass, whispering to the girl staring back. You trusted her. How could you? When I closed my eyes, I still heard it. The echo of people laughing, the sound of Jamie's voice telling me to lighten up. I thought if I stayed inside long enough, the world would forget. But the world doesn't forget. It scrolls. It comments. It laughs again. My mom texted once. Are you okay, sweetheart? I typed and erased a dozen replies before giving up. What could I say? That my life had been turned into a joke? That my best friend made me a spectacle? I turned off the screen and lay back on my bed, staring at the ceiling until the walls started to blur. A soft knock broke the silence. Scarlett? Leo's voice. Steady, careful. You've got to come out. You can't let them destroy you like this. I didn't answer. He waited, then said quietly, You don't have to face it alone. After he left, the room felt different. Still lonely, but less suffocating. His words stayed. You can't let them destroy you. That night, I opened my laptop. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling, but certain. I gathered the screenshots, the files, the proof. Each click felt heavier than the last. Then I started typing. A formal complaint addressed to the dean of students. For the first time in a week, I was doing something that didn't feel like hiding. The next morning, I sat at my desk, sunlight cutting across the floor like a quiet reminder that the world was still moving, even if I wasn't. I opened my laptop and stared at the blank email for a long time. My heart was racing, but my hands felt steady. This time, I wasn't writing to beg or explain. I was writing to be heard. Subject: formal complaint, violation of privacy. I attached the screenshots, the original recording, every message that tied Jamie to what she'd done. My voice in the file shook, but the words in my email didn't. When I hit send, I sat back and exhaled for what felt like the first time in weeks. Hours later, I was called into Dean Carter's office. He was calm, professional, but there was something sincere in the way he looked at me as he read through the report. He nodded slowly. Ms. Thomas, he said, setting the folder down. You did the right thing. We'll investigate this immediately. For a moment, the weight in my chest loosened. Someone believed me. Someone saw it for what it was. Not drama, not gossip, but harm. That night, I opened my phone again. Not to hide, but to speak. I created a new account. No name, no face, just words on a dark screen. If you've ever laughed at someone's pain, I said softly, my voice trembling but steadying with each word. Remember, it might have taken them a year to find the courage to tell it. I hit upload. By morning, the video had spread farther than I ever imagined. Comments poured in. Stories, confessions, apologies. People used the same hashtag. #SafeVoices. For the first time, my voice wasn't being mocked. It was being echoed. They called us both in on a gray morning, the kind where the sky feels heavy enough to fall. I sat at one end of the long table, hands folded tightly in my lap. Across from me, Jamie leaned back in her chair, hair perfectly curled, pretending not to care. The recording of my voice played faintly through the speakers. Only a few seconds long, but enough to make my stomach twist. Dean Carter looked up. "Ms. Miller, do you admit that this recording was shared from your account?" Jamie sighed, rolling her eyes. "It wasn't like that. I didn't post it. I just sent it to a few friends. I didn't know it would spread." Dean's tone stayed even. "You recorded a private conversation without consent and distributed it. That's not a misunderstanding, Ms. Miller. It's a violation." Jamie's smile faltered. "She's making it sound worse than it is. It was just a moment between friends. Everyone's blowing it up online because she wants attention." Something inside me snapped, not in anger, but in disbelief. I looked up at her, meeting her eyes for the first time in weeks. "You called it a joke," I said quietly. "Do you still think it's funny?" For the first time, she couldn't look at me. The room fell silent. Dean closed the file, his voice firm but calm. "The university has reviewed the evidence. Ms. Miller, you are suspended for 1 semester, effective immediately. You may appeal in writing, but the decision stands." Jamie's mouth opened as if to argue, then closed again. She gathered her things quickly, heels clicking against the floor, refusing to glance my way as she walked out. When the door shut, the room seemed to exhale. I thanked Dean softly and stepped outside. The hallway was empty. Rain slid down the windows in slow, steady streaks. I stood there for a while, watching the world blur behind the glass. No victory, no satisfaction, just quiet. And the sound of rain, the first sound in weeks that didn't hurt to hear. When the hearing ended, I walked outside into the open air. The rain had stopped, but the wind still carried the smell of wet concrete and cedar. I stood in the middle of the courtyard, letting it brush through my hair, cooling the skin beneath my collar. For the first time in weeks, I wasn't hiding behind a screen or a locked door. I was simply here, quiet, present, breathing again. Students passed by in groups, their laughter distant, harmless now. My name was still out there somewhere, tangled in hashtags and comments. But it didn't matter anymore. The noise had lost its power. I deleted my TikTok account that evening, not out of fear, but because I didn't need it to be heard anymore. I've deleted TikTok, but this time I'm not running away. I can't stop people from talking about me, but I can decide who gets to use my voice. Weeks later, the university announced something new, a student-led awareness project called Safe Voices. It started with my anonymous video and grew into a movement. Workshops, seminars, posters on campus walls, all reminding people that stories are not entertainment, and every confession deserves respect. They asked me to help, not as the victim from that viral clip, but as someone who learned to speak again. On the day of the first freshman orientation, I stood on stage, looking at hundreds of new faces, nervous, hopeful, unaware of the storm that college life could sometimes be in. "My name is Scarlett Thomas," I said, smiling softly. "And this is what I learned about courage. Silence protects no one." Applause filled the hall, warm and real. And as I stepped down from the stage, I realized something simple. The same voice that once broke me had finally become my strength.